Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Heffernan, and I will be serving as your moderator for today's Air Centre Networking Friday seminar. And I'm absolutely delighted to have this opportunity. I'm coming to you from a very relaxed location in the northwest of Ireland. And today, your seminar speaker is someone I'm delighted to say is both a very valued friend and colleague. Sigi Gruber, to me, is the epitome of what a good public servant should be. She absolutely has the heart of a lioness. She is someone who I'm sure many in the audience in this virtual world will know personally, and from the experience of working with Sigi, she is a woman who is impossible to say no to. And that is a wonderful attribute when she is operating in a global science diplomacy role, which she has performed so magnificently in the decade I have known her. And it is true that we have been collaborating very closely together on a number of initiatives, which Sigi will draw out in her presentation for over a decade now. Most memorably from me in the starting point of the Galway Statement, the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance in 2013 in Galway. But as you will learn from Sigi, the ambition and the vision with many, many partners and governments around the Atlantic is growing and having very significant impact. And if I could draw out just one example of how collaboration and partnership and international science diplomacy really works and can have a great positive effect. From early on in the process, a seabed mapping working group was established by the European Union, Canada, and the United States of America. And one of the initiatives we were trying to really get out the message was that it is essential to bridge the gap of mapping on the seafloor if we truly want to protect and harness the wonderful potentials of the ocean wisely. And I recall an occasion at the Monaco meeting of the JEPCO Nippon Foundation. I guess it was 5-6 years ago, when colleagues from the Canadian Hydrographic Service and Craig McLean from NOAA and I spoke to them of the Galway Statement, highlighted the, if you like, a case study of the Irish government's seabed mapping initiative, whereby all of the information mapped was being made openly accessible to the world. And the Nippon Foundation took up the mantle of trying to inspire many, many more participants in this initiative, with a vision that the entire ocean would be open access available by 2030. And many of you may have seen in the recent weeks publication and material from the JEPCO Nippon Foundation, where in less than 5 years, together, everyone contributing, the private sector, public sector, governments, agencies, have doubled the amount of the seabed that had been mapped. We've gone now to almost 20% from a base under 10% of the world's seabed ocean, openly mapped, openly accessible in high digital format. So I think with that as an introduction of the power of collaboration and international science diplomacy, I'm delighted to hand you over to your speaker for today, Sigi Gruber. Take the floor.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Heffernan, you are the Ocean Ambassador, and you have been the CEO of the Marine Institute in Ireland. So I'm also introducing you, and it's a pleasure really to have you on this panel as moderator. And I would like really now to say hello and good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are connected to. And I would like to take you on this Atlantic journey. Now, why is the Atlantic Ocean important? Well, it is, after all, the second largest ocean on Earth. It drives the weather patterns, including the hurricanes. It is home to an unbelievable biodiversity, to many marine resources. And for centuries, it really has been the avenue of trade and travel. And so come with us today on this travel throughout the Atlantic. Peter has already introduced the the journey. It started officially, it started much before, but it started officially with the signing of the Galway Statement on Atlantic Ocean Cooperation in May 2013. And the statement was signed by the United States of America, by Canada, and by the European Union. Next. What is in this statement? First of all, we agreed on the what, but we also agreed on the how. We really wanted to work together to advance our joint resource, which is the Atlantic, and to engage in priority areas of research cooperation, and to seek to improve efficiency and effectiveness by, first of all, organizing, aligning, leveraging all the activities that already took place, because it didn't start only in May 2013. We wanted to better coordinate data sharing, interoperability, and coordination of observing infrastructure. And I will give you some fantastic examples afterwards. We wanted to promote, and we still want to promote, researcher mobility and capacity building. And we want to coordinate the planning and programming to better align our relevant activities and also to pull together the resources. And when it comes to resources, it is, of course, the state nations that have signed, but in Europe, in the European Union, it is, and it made a huge difference to have on board also many of the countries which are part of the European Union: Ireland, France, Portugal, Spain, the UK as Atlantic coastal states, but many others. Next. And I wanted now to really take you on a journey with a video which will outline much better than I can the results that we have achieved already, thanks to this fruitful cooperation, which is based on mutual interest, but most importantly on trust.
One frontier left, possibly the last. She is vast, mysterious, unknown. But she is also full of wonder. From within her depths, she feeds, gives life, provides refuge. She is a home, a place to do business, and a place to play. While her fury can topple kingdoms, her power can also change the world. And her secrets, her very DNA, well, they hold the keys to fueling, feeding, and healing a better, bluer world. When we unlock the secrets of the Atlantic Ocean, we unlock a greater future. But it can't be done without cooperation. We are the European Union, Canada, and the United States of America. We are the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance. Together, we are embracing the mystery of our ocean, harnessing her power for good, so that future generations can reap the immense benefits. Through Horizon 2020, for the first time, over 500 scientific teams are engaged in Atlantic Ocean research. Mountain ranges and underwater volcanoes have been discovered the world never knew existed. An integrated ocean observing system is being developed that will give countries advanced warning of major flooding and storm risks. And we are learning how to sustainably manage the Atlantic's rich resources so we can feed our people and the people of generations to come. But the ocean is not without limit, and neither are we. If we lose momentum, the window of opportunity for some of the greatest progress humankind has ever seen could be lost. Join us, so that together we can continue the last great exploration campaign on Earth. Together, we can become the generation of sustainability. And together, if we act now, we can secure a new blue economy that safeguards the Atlantic and our planet's future.
Thank you for showing this. So you can download this video, which is actually testimony of the many, many achievements that we have to show, from the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance Coordination and Support Action Portal, which has not only this video, but also a lot of other interesting roadmaps to show, because we have established working groups in the following fields: for seabed mapping, and Peter mentioned it at the beginning in his introduction, for ecosystem management, and you will see afterwards that it led to some very interesting additional projects, to ocean literacy, and we have a wealth of material that any one of you who is interested can download as well, to a roadmap for the microbiome and a roadmap for aquaculture. Next. One other example is the Atlantis Project. It has been launched in 2015. It was funded by the European Horizon 2020 program, the program for research and innovation. It's a project that aimed at optimizing and enhancing the integrated Atlantic Ocean observing systems by bringing together the many dispersed activities. And it finished last year. It produced a blueprint, and it aims now to develop into a full program, a basin skill implementation and use case-based international program, which should show us how we can actually engage in international cooperation and improve it, how we can promote innovation aspects, so the different services stemming out from data management, data gathering, to facilitate free and open access to ocean data based on the FAIR principles, which might hopefully one day as well lead to a digital twin of the ocean. It should enable and disseminate methods of achieving quality and authority for ocean information. It should strengthen as well the global ocean observing system, the GOOS, as you all know, and contribute to the Blue Planet, the Geo Blue Planet initiative. And last but not least, of course, to the Galway and Belém statements on Atlantic Ocean cooperation. And this is an example where scientists since 2015 and even before already worked on a whole basin scale, which next led to an additional signing of a political statement. It's the Belém Statement on Atlantic Cooperation, Research and Innovation Cooperation, which was signed between the European Union, South Africa and Brazil in July 27. And with that, we really have established a political framework which enables researchers to look into the different priorities which we have spelled out based on what the scientists have agreed to. So the climate variability, ocean resources, ocean observation, ocean technology, emerging pollutants, and polar research. And that's the reason why we call it actually an Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, from pole to pole, because we cannot just put geographical borders in. Next. But there are many other countries in the South Atlantic. So we have also deepened cooperation with Argentina and Capo Verde. And I know that next Friday, in the same series, you will speak, or you can listen to the minister for dealing with marine and oceans in Capo Verde, with our ex-commissioner Carlos Moedas, who is here signing the cooperation arrangement with Capo Verde. Next. Video, please. Again, we have a video to show you how this journey is unfolding, much better than I can explain to you.
The ocean is key for us. Life would not exist without it. And yet, we are damaging it. Designing policies for ocean sustainability requires accurate observations and scientific information.
We cannot do the science that is needed and the observations that are needed to sustain the Atlantic ourselves. No one nation can do it.
Building on the success of the Galway Statement, various countries decided to connect their initiatives to support a massive transatlantic cooperation.
So in our dialogues with Brazil and South Africa, we saw an increasing desire for us to work together to mobilize the community in the South Atlantic and to build on what had happened in the North Atlantic.
The Belém Statement, together with the agreements with Cabo Verde and Argentina, constituted the next step in creating the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, a group of countries from pole to pole, all with a common goal: enhancing marine research and innovation cooperation for the benefit of citizens.
Our All-Atlantic Ocean Cooperation will ensure that research and innovation provide the solutions to the communities faced with a changing Atlantic Ocean, leading to a more sustainable future.
Co-responsibility, co-ownership and co-implementation will be the pillars for tackling key common areas of interest. Working together to share resources and to collect data will map unknown territories, align budgets and maximize the benefits for citizens.
These things in the oceans are very expensive, and the instruments that we use for research. So I think that together we can be able to share the costs.
But uniting countries is not enough. We are opening the initiative to society, including the public, to build the All-Atlantic Ocean Research community.
The policies will only make a difference if the population itself understands why are you doing it.
By collaborating with the youth to have ocean-engaged citizens from an early age, our alliance gives the next generation the tools to create a more sustainable Atlantic.
There's a very good African saying that says, if you want to go far, you go alone. If you want to go further, you go together.
So join us and help make our Atlantic a better, bluer place for all.
Thank you. We have not yet finished, but yet again, this was another invitation to all of you watching us, following me, to join. And we will also come back to this, how can you join? Now, when we signed the political commitments, which is more a top-down, I explained before, we wanted to create this framework within which researchers can really come together, share information, exchange knowledge, and really find new knowledge, the new knowledge which is needed to unlock the many mysteries that the Atlantic Ocean holds for us. And you will see this word unlocking comes back over and over again. So we have also funded, we have put more or less over 200 million euros since we signed the Galway Statement into funding different research projects. This is only a little taste. We could not put on a slide, nor does the time allow, to go into the deeper, but I wanted to share with you so that you can go back to the projects, you can contact the coordinators, you can visit the websites, you can download what is available. Next. And one good example where you can download a whole compendium of results is linked to the Atlas Project, which is finishing now and has really many unbelievable, interesting results to share with you. So don't hesitate. Go here, you have the website, contact as well the people, download whatever you think could be necessary and useful for you, for your research, but also for sharing with the communities the results. And Atlas also has fantastic kind of library where you can download lots of materials for ocean literacy purposes. Next. Another example And this is one of the newer ones, it's the Atlantic Project. Now it's a kind of really health check for the Atlantic ecosystem. It's a very ambitious project. It started last year. It focuses on an ocean-wide approach to understand the factors that control the distribution, the stability, but also the vulnerability of deep sea and open ocean ecosystems. And you can see from these slides how many expeditions are planned in this project, but also, and this is very important, and this is a feature that we have built into all the projects that we have funded and that we fund. We want that all projects allow for early career training. So that is the capacity building element, which is extremely important, that our new generation is exposed to the deep expertise of the very experienced researchers coordinating these mega projects. Next. Tri-Atlas, yet another one. We call them sister projects, sister or brothers, you choose what you want, but they are all connected. So this is really the big family of how are we really looking into the status and what is the human impact again? How do the human activities affect the Atlantic marine ecosystems? And it is so critical actually to know more so that we can preserve them for the future. And this project looks particularly into the South and tropical Atlantic marine ecosystems. Next one. This project, Mission Atlantic, yet again, another one based on ecosystem management. It's mapping and assessing present and future status of the Atlantic marine ecosystem and the climate change and exploitation. This project has not yet started. It will start, and it will as well again have a focus. You can see it here on the slide. Stay tuned. Whenever the website and everything is available, connect with them. Next, Eco Atlantic. This is what we call very often, it's exploring the DNA of the Atlantic. It really aims to look at the structure and functions of the Atlantic microbiome in the context of ocean circulation and presence of pollutants. And it proposes an all-Atlantic microbiome sampling day, which is a very interesting idea. So this is how we can get the communities on board. This is something that you can bring into the schools. Everyone can do citizen science. And the project will be very, very, very welcoming the different samples. Ocean literacy in summer schools will be organized. And of course, it has the more scientific and artificial intelligence part. And the project also links to another initiative that we have launched, a project which is the Blue Cloud Project. Next. I turn over now to something which is unbelievably important, because it is the Atlantic as a joint food resource. So how can we look into sustainably farm low trophic aquaculture in the Atlantic Ocean? How can we look at new approaches of integrated multi-trophic systems? So the projects, Aquavite has a website. They have a very nice video. I invite you really to look at it. And I now flip over to the next one, which is a sister project, again, an Atlantic aquaculture project, and it looks into profitable and resilient aquaculture. Again, it is a project that encompasses particularly partners from Europe, from the North Atlantic as well, but, and that is the interesting part, from South Africa and from Brazil. And this is, again, something that I think will shed light on how we can much more sustainably reap the benefits of aquaculture. And another issue which is important is we will have to do quite a lot of convincing, because there are a lot of misconceptions and suspicions versus the aquaculture farming. Next. This is a totally different project. You see that we hop from one field to another. This is EU marine robots. So we are entering really the world of world-class marine robotics research infrastructure. So I invite you to get in touch with the coordinator. You have his email address here. What is not on this slide, but we know that there is a lot as well on offer, is the training and the capacity building element, in addition to the different activities which are listed on the slide. It's the networking, it's the joint research activity, and it is the transnational access through open calls. So watch out really the website. And if you are interested in learning much more about which other projects exist, we have a portal. It's the Anchor, it's the support really project, supporting the whole efforts that I outlined before to you. This is in a way the visit and the entry card to better understand what is going on within the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance from pole to pole. This portal needs still to be populated. So if any of you watching would like to share any interesting initiative, take advantage, contact Sophia and her team who are running this very sophisticated portal and support project, and you can be then visible. But you can also be connected to the many other projects. So this is another way on how we try to build up the community. It is open, it is not a closed club. Next. Once a year, we decided to come together, to bring together all these different experiences going on in the different projects, to share it widely with new players. So we organized in February 2020 the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Forum in Brussels. The report is now available. Look it up, check it out, get in touch with the different people if you're interested. We really focused on something which is now very close to our heart and which we know we have, which we know that we have really to focus on. It is to put people first. It is really that we need to make sure that whatever results are achieved, they are brought out to really all the people needing them, living on this course of the Atlantic. So the next forum, please put it already in your calendars. It will be hosted by South Africa. It's on the 3rd and the 4th of December. And unfortunately, given the current circumstances, it will have to take place virtually. There will also be another event in beginning of June 21 on the Azores. So I'm anticipating that date so that you also block that. Next. And because I put quite a lot of focus on the next generation and on bringing the messages back to the communities, we have worked together with our partners and we have identified 23 brilliant young people, which we have defined as the Ocean Youth Ambassadors. They come from 15 different countries and they have developed different campaigns until 3 themes. So be Atlantic friendly, encouraging ocean-friendly initiative in the ecotourism sector. They looked into all the different culture and celebration opportunities to explain why is the ocean so important in order to reconnect people with the wealth of the ocean, to bring the ocean home to their lives and to get to know the Atlantic. And that is the storytelling. And we have launched the All-Atlantic Ocean Youth Forum on the occasion of our event in February in Brussels. And you can also read the quote, the tweet of our commissioner Maria Gabriel. Next. Can you go back? Sorry, apologies. We are now going to relaunch. We want to train the next generation of youth ambassadors so that we increase these young people connections along and across the Atlantic. But we invite you already to get in touch with the existing group of youth ambassadors because they can share with you lots and lots of what they have done. So they have WhatsApp groups, they can be found on Twitter, they have a Facebook. We will show to you how you can connect them. Next. We also work with the Air Center, and that's why we are grateful that we had this opportunity today through the webinars that the Air Center has successfully organized, that we can share it. So this is our cooperation with the Air Center is important, and meanwhile the Air Center is also partner in two of the projects that I mentioned before, Astral and Mission Atlantic. But there are other opportunities for cooperation because the Air Center reaches out to some other groups, and if we pool them all together, then we can really focus on the community that we have to build. Next. And that is what really will be the focus of our next steps. So we will continue the wide-ranging work. It will include as well an enhanced cooperation between industry, academia, research institutions, and governance. We have to look into the funding opportunities. How can we get more funding? Because the challenges are such that the money is never enough. How can we really now share the different initiatives and focus on capacity building and empower communities? And last but not least, we have already started last year, and we will continue to support through our work the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development and the 2030 Agenda. And this, next, is now the end of my journey. So again, keep in touch. You have a whole series of websites. Contact us. We have a functional mailbox that is RTD/Atlantic. And you can also keep in touch with all the other partners that I have mentioned. And I'm open now and I listen to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sigi, on behalf of, as I look at the audience, over 160 participants, and I know we had at least 150 at the very outset. And to all of you again, I want to thank you on behalf of the Air Center for your participation today. But Sigi, that has been a tour de force. And as we now have at least 20 minutes for a Q&A session, I want to alert any of the audience who may not have already appreciated it. You have a question and answer, a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I see 3 questions are already in there, and I'll catch up with those very shortly. But I know that given the interest in your presentation, Jose had received quite a number of questions by email in advance, both from active participants today and some people who were unable to be with us today for various reasons. And our colleague, your colleague Laura McDonough, I know has some of those ready to go. So I suggest we start with those few questions, and I encourage people to use the Q&A box as things come along, and I'll try and keep it moving along with Sigi. So you can all see question 1 there. The mission-oriented approach creates a very powerful narrative. What would your response be to that first question, Sigi?
Sorry, I had difficulties to unmute. The youth ambassadors. Is that because yes. No, this is a different. I saw the one on the question. So the mission. Yes. So this is something where one way is that we make a plea to all the scientists in the different projects that we fund, also to really co-create with the communities. You saw on the video, we had actually this slogan, co-create, co-responsibility. And that is probably going to be crucial, because if we do not, and if the scientists do not include the needs from the communities, from the regional structures as well, empower the local communities by bringing them in from the beginning, not at the end, then this is probably very often, it's like missing the point. So it will be extremely important to have this co-creation element embedded in any research endeavor. The other issue is through the youth ambassadors and the different people which might not be part of the youth ambassadors, but which are trained. Young people have a different way of connecting to communities. We know that. We old people know that. Peter, we know that. I can't relate to the other people. But so we have to bring them on board as well and take them as key actors. They have to be part of the co-creation process. Otherwise, they cannot be properly trained. They need to make mistakes. That is fine, but they need to be brought in. They have to have the hand-on experience, and because they are the ones who go back to their local communities. I am not so sure now about the regional structures. What you mean? That might really be more a way of connecting out to the regions and the governments or the mayors of a city, because they need to come in with the money. When it comes to infrastructures, the infrastructures are normally paid for by the local or the regional or the national authorities. That is very often not covered by, certainly not by an EU-funded project. So that both way is extremely important as well.
Excellent.
Have I?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I'm going to switch over to a topic from the Q&A box now, which I know is very dear to your heart. So it's not a tough question, but there are grouped questions there that are looking for more information about the Youth Ambassador Program, and another looking at how the initial cohort we're choosing and how you might envisage the next phase, the next process of selection for youth ambassadors. So away with the Youth Ambassador Program, Sigi.
Yes, I see that Martin has put a question. Martin, up to you to empower the people when you take them on board when you go on the different cruises. That is a fantastic way to empower them. But let me come back. It's great, Martin, that you are as well watching and you are part of the community, because you are also a key player. Martin has been the coordinator of the Atlantis Project and is now a key player for the Atlantis program. For the youth ambassadors, we are now in the process of developing the next summer school for the youth ambassadors, which will take place, hopefully, back to back in a virtual way to the forum, to the next forum in South Africa. So we are exploring how best we can now develop a program which will have to take place all online. So we are looking for experiences as well. And so that is how we are planning the next cohort of youth ambassadors to be trained. But in parallel, what is very important, it's not only that group of youth ambassadors, which will be, by the way, selected by our different partners. As we did for the first time round, we asked all our partners to select themselves, the youth ambassadors, to put them forward, because it's not up to us. You know, Colin, you know much better who you want to propose as a youth ambassadors. So that's how we leave that. But in addition to that, we want really to train young people. We want that these young people are empowered through training courses. and that the youth ambassadors component, the component that they have to go out and bring the message back to the community, is part of any training. So it's the scientific training, but also the training that really they are becoming ambassadors for bringing back the message of the importance to the ocean, the resources, the well-being, the dreams, all the different things that the ocean holds when we look at it or when we study it. So that's what we want the youth, the young people to become.
And if I may as well offer a very sincere congratulations to this generation of youth ambassadors. While I was unable to be there physically at the All Atlantic Forum in Brussels in February, watching them online and watching their contributions, the sense of energy, the sense of purpose, the sense of excitement, and a whole wave of ideas that they introduced were really fantastic. I think they stole the show from all the senior professionals and politicians that were at that seminar, and how fitting that is. And again, I know from your involvement in the Marie Curie program, Sigi, that it has always been a passion of yours to bridge that gap between education and involvement, and to say to all our participants as well that we've all gone through a learning curve in the recent times to really up our game in how we engage society, and I know that a very deep commitment to that is now enshrined in the whole philosophy of how to co-create hopefully a mission on the oceans and clean waters in Europe, which is currently underway. I'm going to pick another one from the Q&A box, Sigi, which I think you can contribute greatly on. Is it's given the remarkable and huge effort on initiatives on the Atlantic. Are there similar initiatives in other EU regions that you might mention?
Yes, in fact, I'm hopping all the time from one basin to another. We have launched very similar, but they're slightly different initiatives in the other EU sea basins, because in the EU we have the EU integrated maritime policy with it related sea basin strategies. So in the Mediterranean, we have launched the Blue Med initiative, which brings together North and South Mediterranean countries. We have also youth ambassadors now in the Mediterranean, which do great, and we want to really connect them with the Atlantic ones. And we have launched a very interesting pilot. How can we really ensure that the Mediterranean becomes pollution and plastic free? This is a very ambitious pilot that we have launched. We have targets 25, 2030. We have in 1 year now established national hubs. We have 8 countries who are on a voluntary basis are participating, and they are collecting the different interesting local and regional initiatives going on, which is the whole pipeline of initiatives. It's not only research and innovation, it's a lot of community work, it's a lot of industry involved as well. And if you Google Blue Med for a plastic-free, healthy Mediterranean, you will end up and see the different hubs. Likewise, we are working on the Black Sea, which is yet again an interesting, totally different geopolitical and also scientifically interesting context. We are in the process of launching youth ambassadors as well in the Black Sea. So one big aim that we have now is to bring together all these youth ambassadors and also to bring them at the kickoff event to Berlin, for the kickoff event for the UN Ocean Decade to Berlin. So that is one other part we are working on. But can I take advantage? I saw myself some of the questions. Leila from Capo Verde, hello to you. There isn't an age limit to youth ambassadors, but yes, we have put, I think, 33 or 35 on, but we are also reflecting, and we want to launch an ambassadors scheme for older people on the Atlantic. And actually, Peter is already an ambassador for Ireland.
I'm certainly older.
You're an ambassador. So watch out. There will be as well an ambassador scheme. I also, Peter, can I take the liberty to answer to Wendy? Hello, Wendy. Nice that you are following and listening. What is the relationship between Anchor and all the sister projects? Now, the Anchor project, did not have the time, but there are many other really parts which are so relevant in the Anchor projects. There are different platforms bringing together more than 70 different experts, looking together on how can all these different parts be connected. And the Anchor project is facilitating as well the different, what I call the sister and brother projects.
Very good. And I noticed a very interesting question from Melissa. Is the All-Atlantic effort connecting with the Pacific and other oceans to share or leverage resources and knowledge sets? And just at the outset, while you catch your breath, Sigi, very much there's a wonderful convergence in this decade we are in at a global level, which mirrors almost exactly the core components of the All-Atlantic efforts. And that is the UN declared Decade of Ocean Research for Sustainable Development, which commences in 21. And there's a very great spread of geographies, as you can imagine, with the UN encompassing all ocean basin activities and seas. So that very much is hand in glove connection with the All-Atlantic. And I'm sure you'd like to contribute on that, Sigi, as well.
Yes. Sorry, I was reading now. I apologize. But really, I think, Peter, you framed this fantastically, because the UN Decade will as well be a kind of overarching global platform. And we have contributed to the workshop in Brazil. We have contributed to the workshop that was organized and hosted in Canada. We also have contributed to one workshop that we organized with our Mediterranean partners in Venice. So this will be the connecting element where we can showcase how we have worked across the Atlantic as a community and invite others to join. For the moment, because of the EU and because we have contacts, of course, with the Pacific through our member states who have countries and overseas territories in the Pacific. But we are not, we really focused for the moment on the Atlantic, on the Black Sea, on the Baltic, and on the Mediterranean.
Very good. And Laura, I'll give you notice now that I'm just going to take two more from the Q&A box, and then we might return to the earlier questions that were received by Jose after these couple. There's a linked kind of a theme here coming, people asking about the connection with the Caribbean islands, and an obvious question: will there be a continuation of the Commission support and enthusiasm for the All-Atlantic dimension in the next Horizon Europe program? So I know, again, linked to the UN Decade, there's a tremendous engagement with the Small Island Development States, the SIDS, which encompass all of the global geographies. And I know myself, last year in Ireland, we had the pleasure of hosting over 30 SIDS ambassadors to the UN in CFEST at our Ocean Summit in Cork. And that was a wonderful experience. Again, the idea of those areas of the globe that are most vulnerable were, if you like, informing a European audience and really educating a European audience about how deeply embedded ocean culture and ocean knowledge is in both the heritage and in the histories of these islands, and with the view to the reality of the risks we are all facing with climate change and induced impacts on the oceans. So I think I can answer on your behalf, Sigi, that there is a commitment to continue from the Commission perspective, a very strong embedded support for all Atlantic dimensions, global science diplomacy, and indeed working with islands such as the Caribbean. But I'll turn that to you, and then after your answer, Laura, we'll return to the written questions.
Thank you, yes, for this question. Very importantly, I have presented to you 3 of the projects which are not yet, which have not yet even officially started. They have already started, but these projects have normally a time span over 3 to 4 years. So we will go well into 2022-23. And we are also working on something else, which is something completely new. Peter, you know that very well because you're part of the mission board. We are launching in the EU a new, what we call a moonshot mission for healthy oceans, seas, coastal and inland waters. So as you can imagine, it is really the whole water cycle, because it is both the marine and the inland waters. We are currently working with a group of illustrious people. Peter is part of it, under the chairmanship of Mr. Pascal Lamy, who is ex-commissioner, and he was also the Director General of the WTO. And this mission will hopefully kickstart next year. And it will bring together many of the elements that are as well embedded in the current projects, and to see how can those really, the results of those projects be scaled up, how can demonstrator be funded, so that we also can get, in many cases, much closer to enter the market when it comes to technology development. So, and another issue which has been put forward very strongly is to go and develop a digital twin of the ocean. And this is also now going to be part of a call for proposal for a pilot, which we will publish in September. So there are different things in the pipeline. We are also working with the member states to pull together a partnership where we bring the different sea-basing strategic research agendas under one big umbrella, so the Atlantic will be part of it. And it has to have, and we would like that to have, an international dimension, of course, as well, because all the European waters have borders with international partners. So all this is in the making. Stay tuned. You will see more of this officially as of September. Most likely the mission will be officially, the report will be handed over on the 22nd of September on the occasion of a big event in Brussels. And we will keep you informed. Information is made available either on the websites that we have given you on the last slide, or on the Anchor web portal. And also parts of the web portal which was helping really to kick off and to start off and to support and facilitate the Galway Statement implementation, the AORA, which I showed you a slide, that will migrate into the Anchor portal, so that a lot of the very important reports are not lost and can be accessed.
Great, fantastic. Laura, you might move to the second page, because I think questions 2 and 3 have been addressed in various ways in Sigi's contributions already. And Sigi, while you read question 4, I'll draw out also a response to a Q&A box query, which was, how can standards and approaches be streamlined across the partners and the basins? And if I could just share 2 examples. In the seabed mapping arena, the working group has worked very diligently over the years to bring forward a campaign style to the mapping of the Atlantic, with shared methodologies, data systems, approaches, and the wonderful communication which has precipitated a kind of a wave of partners who are not controlled by anyone. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do. And as I've said it in the introduction, we've seen in the last 5 years a doubling of the materially mapped and openly available information on the seabed, and also in the Atlantis Project, which was, if you like, preparing a wonderful vision and methodology for a fit for purpose ocean observation system for the future. And again, all of the methodologies, the protocols were debated amongst the key experts, and common platforms and common approaches were brought forward. So Sigi, hopefully you and the audience have had a chance to read question 4 there, and if you'd like to address that one. We have about 3 minutes left, so as fast as you can go. Thank you.
Actually, I think we have more time, because if you are still available with Jose, we thought we can go over the 1 hour. So just if you are still available, Peter,
yes,
because then we can have a little bit longer discussion. I am available until 4:30. So the funding issue, yeah. But first of all, in one of the both in the Belém and in the Galway Statement, one of the very important issues is actually to sit down upfront at a policy maker level. So that's at the level of government, and to see how can we identify where are our priorities and how can we ensure that there are complementary funds available. And this has, we have had some very good examples with NSF in the United States, for example, where the NSF, on the basis of projects that we have kicked off, like the Atlas project that I showed you, they issued a Dear Colleague letter inviting their peers, their principal advisors, to put forward proposals which would complement the Atlas project, and also there was another one, the Sponges project. So that is one way to go ahead. We will never really, I think, avoid overlaps, but we hear all the time something different. We hear all the time that there isn't enough money available. So in terms in the EU, we try to coordinate. We coordinate whatever is done at EU level funding, so that if one project, for example, or if we can identify that a project partner might get funding from 2 funding streams, then we, of course, invite the people not to use EU funding for the same activities in 2 different projects, because that is fraud. Yeah? So that would go straight away into a fraud case. It is much more difficult that we can check that we don't have really a mechanism whether the same activities are funded at the local or regional level. So that's, but we believe as well in a very good ethical behavior of whoever uses public funds. So I don't know whether I did respond, but what is important is that we have the identification of common priorities, and we know this we can fund, and then we invite our nation partners, so Canada or the United States, to really look what can be funded on their parts. Because we in the EU cannot fund Canadian or US participants, while for the Atlantic, for the specific case where all the projects coming under the Belém Statement, for that we made an exception and have also funded Brazilian researchers. And we do fund, of course, participants from South Africa, Cape Verde, Argentina, and from other African countries.
Excellent. And there's another question here in the area of capacity building being key, and I think there are examples, as you pointed out, where common projects. I think people should avoid getting hung up and worried about can another country's funding stream be made perfectly symmetrical. These are in many ways unsurmountable bureaucratic challenges. But where there is a common identification of priorities, where there is a common purpose and where there is a will, there is a way to make things happen. And we've seen that materialize. I know that in the capacity building, increasingly, I think there's an openness to invite participants who wish to be part of big campaign work, to be part of campaign mapping, to be partners in observation systems, and then to look to partnering mechanisms between, as we know from the discussions at the mission board, what may be catalyzed elsewhere by member states programs, by joint managed programs, and so on. Is there anything in addition you'd like to add, Sigi, on the capacity building arena?
Yes, yeah, we have as well a very, very well-known scheme, which is the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which are part of the framework program. We also have Erasmus plus Erasmus Mundus, which look specifically in supporting young PhD candidates, but also students at master level. So I would invite anyone really to look at that. And for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, there are the initial, what we call the initial training network scheme. And we have lately checked, and we have funded over the last 6 years more than 500 of such big schemes, so related to marine, ocean, Arctic. So there's a huge potential there as well. There are many national programs and, or at the level of the universities as well. And what we are trying now to do is to pool as well those together. So there's another work stream going on supported by the Anchor project to see how can we make such programs more visible, more open to wider participation. And last but not least, we also have many infrastructure programs which have, they have open calls for young people to access their infrastructures. I wanted to get back to one issue that you mentioned, Peter, very important, the interoperability aspect, but it's also that all our funded projects have to work with open access. It is mandatory. And they have to apply, to comply with the FAIR principles when it comes to data management. So it is to make the data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And that's now, that is not an option anymore, but it is mandatory of all our EU funded projects.
Excellent. And final question there is how, or what examples you might suggest how local authorities at whatever level people are thinking there are connecting to the Atlantic Ocean community.
Yeah, that's I think one of the issues that we all identified as still where a lot of work needs to be done. We identified it as one of the outcomes of our forum in February. We will certainly put this as a focus for our next forum hosted by South Africa. And this is where I said, when I said it before, the young people will have a decisive role to play, but also the researchers. Researchers, I know that, of course, because they are researchers and they know what we all don't know, and they think that if everyone would know that everyone would be happy, but we don't. They have as well to go out to the communities in many ways to make the research results known and to bring it for the benefit of the people and to double check it with the co-creation that I mentioned before.
Very good. And to our great friends in South Africa, we are all looking forward greatly to the December next gathering virtually. Unfortunately, we're unlikely to be able to travel, but what a great event to look forward to. So Sigi, as we come towards the end of this journey together, I know you promised to tango, but it'll have to be a virtual one. Is there any closing comments or remarks you'd like to share with our still participants? We still have over 100 participants with us as even over time. I give you the last remarks.
Thank you. No, I wanted to thank actually all those people who have put in questions, because they are important for us, so that we know those are things that we have not yet explained enough, that we have not disseminated enough, that we have not thought through enough. So I would like to invite everyone who is still there and who wants to send a question, please do so, because it really enriches our work. We will share it with our partners in Canada, in the United States, in Brazil, South Africa, Cape Verde, Argentina, and many others. And you will see that we want to take on board your suggestions, but also your concerns. Thank you very much. And Peter, yes, one day we have to dance the tango.
Okay, on that thought, can I offer my congratulations to you for a tour de force today, as always, to sincerely congratulate Jose and thank him for the opportunity to be part of the wonderful AIR Centre Networking Friday seminars, and indeed to both Jose and to Laura for all the work in the background, making us not look very foolish, and the simplicity with which all your requests and slides were dealt with. Thank you all. And to the virtual world out there, have a great weekend. Stay safe, keep well, and let's look forward to being together soon.
Thank you. And I also would like to thank my team, because Laura had a night shift to pull everything's slides together. And I would like to thank actually all the coordinators who, on a very short notice, because we're always at the last moment, as usual, have sent really all the slides. So thank you very, very much to all those and all of you who have contributed to this interesting session. To be repeated. Thank you. And thank you, Jose, to host us, this invitation, this opportunity. We will continue our cooperation with the AIR Centre.
Sláinte.